I mean, the whole point of the monster is to be monstrous, to be repellent. That's what makes you side with the human beings. I didn't have a problem with that. The critics thought the movie was boring and didn't allow for any hope. That was the part they really hammered on. The lack of hope is built into the story. Those are words from director John Carpenter on his 1982 film, The Thing. Seeing Faces in Movies is a podcast where each month I focus on the works of a different director or cinematographer, and each week I invite a guest on to discuss a film and artist filmography. I'm your host, Felicia, and today we're talking about The Thing. So, a very quick synopsis of the film is a research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. Tagline for the film is anytime, anywhere, anyone. The film stars Kurt Russell as McCready, Wilford Brimley as Blair, T.K. Carter as Knowles, David Clennon as Palmer, and Keith David as Childs. It's written by Bill Lancaster, based on a story by John W. Campbell Jr., cinematography by Dean Cundey, directed by John Carpenter, edited by Todd C. Ramsey, music by Ennio Morricone, costumes by Ronald I. Kaplan, Trish Keating, and Gilbert Lowe, and special effects by Roy Arbogast and team. Today I have on the show Will Gaydos, and I know that you're a huge film fan. You have a huge collection of specifically VHS tapes, which I'd love to hear about as well. But I know that you are a Carpenter fan, and I was very excited to finally have you on the show and talk about The Thing, which is a huge movie. But before we get into all that, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I do want to hear about your relationship with Carpenter, but I also am curious because I'm sure people who listen to the show, a lot of us are big physical media collectors, such as yourself. I am curious if you want to share about how that came about. You specifically collecting VHS tapes.
Yeah, so it came from a bit of a thing of necessity for me during the lockdown when we weren't allowed to leave our homes. Rightfully so, in my opinion. Whatever.
Yeah,
Let's put that out there. I
yeah.
wasn't mad about it, but I needed to do something, so I was watching a lot of movies. At the time, I had a laptop with an HDMI cable set up to my TV, and that's how I was
Hmm.
streaming stuff and whatever. And then my laptop broke, and I couldn't afford to get a new laptop, but I was like, I can't just not watch stuff. And then I remembered that I had a couple of VCRs in the basement from my grandparents' place after they passed away. And I also remembered that I had just a small handful of tapes from when I was a kid that were still kicking around.
Nice.
Specifically, my personal OG copy of Jurassic Park from the London, Ontario Jumbo Video.
No.
Um, that my mom put in a nice red hard case, cut the sleeve perfectly. Although, obviously at this point now, I would have preferred the original slipcover,
Yeah.
but whatever. We're not going to go into that. But anyway, yeah. So I started watching those tapes and quickly went through all of them. And at that point, I don't think we were I don't think stores like Value Village or anything were opened up again. But you could do. They were still doing like estate sales online. So I would do these estate sale, like bid on these lots at these estate sales. And this must have been like 2020, 2021. And at the time you could still find, this is like just before, I mean, obviously there are plenty of people that have been into VHS for much longer than that.
Hmm.
Um, I think I kind of got in just before it blew up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because I was picking up lots of like literally 100 tapes for $3.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, so I was, I had to drive out to Oshawa or wherever, but for $3 for 100 tapes, it was like fuck it.
Yeah.
Um, and so my collection grew exponentially, like very quickly. I also run Road Trip Vintage, which is not to plug myself here, but
Yeah, please do.
uh, I'm a vintage reseller. So I do markets, pop-up markets in the city. And when I was getting into the VHS, at first I wasn't really bringing it into the vintage reselling. I was just collecting. Um, and I was doing, selling other vintage stuff like random knickknacks and, some clothes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cameras. I was really big into the cameras, vintage film cameras. And then it got to the point after having picked up so many of these lots that I'm like, well, I have like four copies of this one movie,
Yeah.
because when you pick up the lot, you have to take everything. So I would just end up with all these multiples of things. And I was at first, it took me a surprisingly and embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that I should just resell them with my vintage stuff. So anyway, I started doing that, and then that kind of opened up the floodgates to like, well, now I have a way to turn this addiction, I mean hobby,
Hmm.
sorry, into something of a source of income.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've just been doing that ever since. And now I have, I haven't counted. Like the thing is, I have so many tapes coming in and out all the
Yeah.
time that I don't have like a solid number of what I've got, but I must have a couple thousand at least. Um,
Yeah. Wow.
and like maybe 800 of that is personal collection. I've gotten to the point now where I have a room. Luckily, I'm, great. I'm grateful for the space I have. Very
Hmm.
lucky to have the space I have because I am able to have an entire room dedicated to this hobby. And at the same time, I have kind of a fixed amount of shelf space in that room. So I'm getting to the point now where it's like, I'm going to have to start getting really specific about what I'm holding on to. And there's still tons of stuff on those shelves that like when I started getting into the big collection idea, I was just kind of picking like anything that looked kind of cool and just putting it on the shelf. So there's a lot of stuff on the shelf that I need to, I'm going to
Think
get to the point
through.
where I have to, yeah, I'm going to have to like do a one for one. Like if I want to keep this tape, I have to find something on the shelf that I don't want anymore. Which is fine. I'm not complaining about that. It's probably for the best. It's definitely for the best. Like I don't need, you know,
I mean, hey,
I don't need
why not?
all the VHS.
Yeah, but I know it's hard to give things up. But I mean, if you're gonna sell them, then
Yeah,
you know, you can get something out of
exactly.
it.
And like, and it's turned into, and it's interesting because like I said, I was a big part of my vintage reselling previously was film cameras. And
Mhm.
as you know, I'm a very big film photographer, or not
Yeah.
big. I'm very interested in it. I'm very big into it. Before the pandemic, I was like kind of semi-professional with photography, kind of
Mhm.
in the more in the arts side of things. But I only ever shot film, so by reselling the cameras, it gave me an opportunity to pick up all these different cameras, put a roll through them, play around with them, and then use the roll as sample images for when I resell it if I decide like cool camera, but like I don't need this one. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of the same thing for me with VHS now. I'll just pick up anything that looks cool. I'll give it a watch and I'll decide, do I need to hold on to this? Will I like, is this going to be something that I'll watch again,
Yeah.
etc.
No, that's really cool, and it's good that you watch all of them too before you decide, as opposed to just being like, "Ah." I'm sure you have some Carpenter on VHS, and I'm curious to hear, like, how you got into his work, and if you remember maybe what the first Carpenter film you watched and how you went on to go watch his other works.
Yeah, I have a ton of Carpenter. I can't remember which one would have been the first that I watched. It was probably Halloween,
Yeah.
but the first one that this is going to sound really like made up, but the first one that I watched that I really, really liked was The Thing. But I'm also a huge fan of They Live, and like there's several others, you know. Christine's pretty good, but it's not like, I don't know. Christine's one of those movies that's in my collection because I'm a Carpenter fan.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Same with the Ghosts of Mars. Like
Yep.
I'm not really a fan of that movie. I remember watching it. Actually, that might have been the first one I watched when I was a
Yeah.
kid. To be, yeah, if I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I think Ghosts of Mars is probably the very first Carpenter movie I watched when I was like a literal child. Um, and I remember not being super stoked on it.
Yeah.
It seemed kind
That's
of silly to me.
that's very fair. I just watched it for the first time recently, because about The Indicator, just
Yeah,
to have the a Carpenter, um, release. I was like,
yeah.
"Wow, this movie's doing a lot." I had a fun time with it, but, it's definitely not top tier.
I even from the like previews that it, because obviously with VHS sometimes there's previews,
Yes.
and every once in a while, like I've seen, I don't remember what movie it was, but there was a preview, and I was like, all right, yeah, like it does look pretty fucking stupid, but like
Yeah.
maybe I should give it another shot.
It's a
But
lot.
yeah, I haven't gone and done that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when the next time will be of me watching it, but it's on my shelf if I ever feel like, "You know what? I'm in a Ghost of Mars mood." Um, who knows
Yeah,
when that'll happen, but it's
that's
there.
a
I have the
that's a very
option.
specific mood, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't know what that mood would be, and I'm kind of afraid of future me if she's ever in that mood, but, um
And I just realized that one of the other Carpenter movies that I saw early on would have been Escape from L.A.
Oh, nice, yeah.
um, on what's it called? City TV, late great movies.
Oh,
Back in the day,
wow.
up in my room with
Throwback.
the old TV with the like click knobs,
Yeah,
and you get like six channels, as well as vampires. I was like, I was watching a lot of late great movies when I was a kid,
mhm.
and a lot of movies that I probably shouldn't have been watching. Uh, Like, I was for Halloween, when I was 10 years old, I was The Crow.
Oh,
Yeah, because I saw that
wow.
movie on Late Great Movies, and probably shouldn't have watched that movie at that time.
No, but, I mean, I feel like those movies kinda shape who you end up being in terms of, like, your interests later. When you watch those ones a little bit too young, I
Yeah,
definitely have a lot of those.
and I feel like, you might agree, people that watch movies like that when they're a bit too young, you don't realize at the time how fucked up
Yeah,
it is,
I know.
and you're just like, "Oh, whatever, it's a movie."
I know, exactly. You're there having a good time, and as an adult, you're like, "Wait a minute, why was
Mhm.
I watching this a lot as a child?"
What was wrong with me?
Yeah. Um, but we're here to talk about The Thing today,
Yes.
which is, I'm gonna preface the conversation with this a couple little facts, and start off by saying that, you know, The Thing when we think about Carpenter, there's definitely, um there's a lot of movies that people associate with him, obviously Halloween, but I think The Thing as well is as high up on the list of films that are associated with Carpenter.
Mhm.
And, like, it was a flop when it came out. It just did not do well at all.
I didn't know that. That's wild.
I know, which is insane to me too, because I think when you think about The Thing, it's such a huge movie that, like, most people I have never met a single person who's watched this movie and didn't think it was fantastic,
Yeah.
which you might not say that about all Carpenter's films. I think there's a lot of hit or misses for people, but The Thing is usually the one that ties, everyone together, so it's kind of wild to know that it just did not do well and people didn't like it, and critics didn't like it, not that matters at all, but,
No, they're usually
you know,
wrong.
they were definitely wrong, and it's become, like, a huge cult film, and
Yeah.
not even just that, it's also just revered as, like, a very, very good film, which it is, like, every time I watch it, I'm always just, like, amazed by how stellar it is,
Yeah.
and it's technically a remake of a Howard Hawks film by the same name. And I say technically because the studios wanted to remake the film, and Carpenter was approached to direct. So it wasn't a project that he spearheaded on his own. He was approached to do this one,
Mhm.
and it would be the first like really big budget film that he was making for Universal Pictures. He didn't want to do it because he's a huge Howard Hawks fan
Mhm.
and a fan of the film. And if you've seen Halloween, at some point, she's watching the thing on TV there. So this is
Oh,
well before.
I didn't even realize that.
I know it's always funny because I rewatched Halloween this previous Halloween season,
Mm.
and I'd forgotten about it. But yeah, he just didn't. He was like, I don't want to remake a movie that I really like. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to have that on my shoulders. But then he went back and read the source material, the short story that it was based on. And he was like, you know what? I think I can make my own adaptation as opposed to a remake.
Mhm.
Um, but the studios consider it a remake of the film. So that's a couple things I just want to put out there at the top. But talking about the film itself, it really just drops you into the action right away.
Yeah.
And without giving really any backstory as to like, we know kind of why they're there, but we don't know who they are before this. We don't know, what their lives are outside of this, and it really just doesn't matter. And I
Yeah.
think it's like a testament to the script, which was written by Bill Lancaster. Shout out, he's the son of the Burt Lancaster. Need to
Oh,
put that
dang.
out there.
Legendary.
I know, truly. And it's funny because his only writing credits prior to this was he wrote The Bad News Bears, and he also wrote one of the, sequels, and then he goes on to write The Thing.
Crazy.
Uh, which is a wild shift, but obviously it worked. But for you watching this film, and I'm sure you've watched it more than once, but and maybe you do remember the first time you watched it or not, but being dropped into a story and seeing where it ends up going, how do you feel about just not getting any level of backstory at all? And if that do you feel like it needed something? Do you wanna know what these characters are outside of this story that they're in, or you're just like, "You know what? It would deter from the story."
I think it was perfect. Like, I think, I think, like I had mentioned to you previously when we were having a little chat before we started recording, I
Mhm.
watched, I just watched The Thing, and
Mhm.
like this morning, and then last night I had watched Escape from New York, and Escape from New York, not to focus on it too much, it does that.
Mhm.
It does give you this background. There are ways in which it is very similar in the way they made those two films, which we can discuss later. I don't know, whatever. Um, but I really liked that there was no. Sometimes I feel like that background that they give you, it's just like it feels too. And I'm not saying this about Escape from New York. Nobody come for me. But sometimes when films do that, it feels a little lazy. It feels a little like they're spoon feeding you because they think you're an idiot, or they were just too lazy to like figure out a way to start it without
Yeah.
explaining everything first, if that makes sense. So I really like that we're just thrown into this like helicopter chase
Mhm.
of a dog in the Antarctic. It's like, what the fuck is happening here? Um, so I really do think it added to literally that, like the feeling of like what is going on right now, and
Yeah.
we're seeing it more from the character's perspective
Mhm.
in that instance, because when the Norwegians show up at Camp 31 or Station 31, sorry, everyone at Station 31 is feeling like we're feeling like, what the fuck is going on? Why are they shooting at this dog? But yeah, no, I personally really did enjoy it. And I think the first time I saw the film was probably just like at home, like in my apartment, just looking for movies to watch, and like picked it. But the first time I like really watched it would have been in when I was in school. in my horror film class, and it was one of the films that we watched. And of course, like I said, I'd already seen it, but hadn't really like sat and paid attention to it or talked about it in any way.
Hmm.
So having to like being able to see it in that academic setting gave me an additional appreciation for it.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, and what I like what you said about you're put into the character's perspective because they know why they're there, but they don't really know what's going on, obviously.
Mhm. I'll also say we don't know why, as the viewer, we don't actually know why they're there.
Yeah,
We're never told what they're doing. We have some ideas of what they're probably doing, but we don't actually know.
yeah,
So I just like that that's an additional element of mystery, and we never actually even find out. Sorry to
no.
ruin it for everyone, but
No, no. Again, if you're listening to this, I really hope you've watched The Thing because we will be, um, talking about whatever,
yeah.
spoilers, I guess. But yeah,
Spoiler alert.
it it adds to the level of confusion that we're all in the same boat of being like, we don't know what's going on. But I think the relationships between the men are very solid, and what Carpenter wanted to do, or what he did, was he insisted on, like, rehearsing for 2 weeks prior to shooting because he's like, "These are a bunch of actors who are gonna be stuck in pretty small spaces,
Mhm.
and I need them to feel like they actually know each other,
Yeah,
as opposed to just showing up day 1 and being like, 'Kay, cool. Act like you guys have been working together for however much time they would have been working together.'"
you want them to be a little bit annoyed with each other in
Yeah,
specific ways or whatever, you know?
exactly. Because I think, again, when you have such a large cast of characters, and again, people get picked off one by one. That's what happens in this movie, and where they're focusing on less and less people. But at the start, there's a lot of people there, and it really does feel like they are coworkers, and in the
Mhm.
sense that you're not necessarily always friends with all your coworkers. There's some that
Exactly.
you're closer to, there's some that you just straight up hate, and you feel that, and obviously, yes, they're acting, that's what they do, but I feel like the dynamic is very obvious.
The distaste that some of them have towards each other is palpable.
Yes. I don't blame them. I think that, being stuck up in the Antarctica, it's freezing, and it's essentially it's like 12 men together. I'm sure there's gonna be some drama there.
That would be a good, reality TV show,
I know.
The Thing.
Oh god. Yeah, I'm surprised. Now don't give people ideas. One of the articles I was reading, someone talked about how if this was made today, the studios or whatnot would feel the need to include a woman in the mix. What they were saying, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on this. It's like there's no right or wrong answers, and I'll give my opinion. That it just wouldn't have the same effect because this story needs to be, I don't know if needs to be is the right word, but works best with being a group of men, and that the dynamic would end eventually change if we're, just using binaries of men and women in the
Sure.
mix, because modern storytelling, depending who does it, but they would be like, "Oh, well, we need to add romance element to it."
Even just an element of someone feeling like they need to save her or something like
Yeah.
that. There would be some kind of I agree.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear what you think about that idea. Like, could it be done? Or if they were remaking it, should they just stick with that dynamic?
I think it could be done. I have two thoughts on it. Firstly, if they were to remake it and make it realistic, I think it would make sense to have because there's likely I don't know anything about like study missions to the Antarctic, but I can only assume there are women on them
Yeah.
now. That would add some realism to it, regardless of any kind of like checking boxes for the studios or whatever. I think that would be a realistic addition to the film.
Mhm.
The only way I see it working is if there is only one woman on the team, she's McCready.
Mm, okay.
And
That's interesting.
she would have to be like an Ellen Ripley type character. She couldn't be one of the other members of the team because then you would end up having, she could be the thing, but no one wants to like accuse her of being the thing, or like no one wants
Yeah.
to tie her up. But like they feel like, no, she can't. But she's so nice to me. Like, there'd be something
Yeah.
stupid like that going on, which maybe would make it more enjoyable if we all knew that she was the thing and they were being idiots and
Yeah.
being sexist and letting themselves get killed over, you know, their
True.
ideas of gender normativity or whatever. That might be kind of fun. But I do think it would work better as her being like a final girl character.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought about like considered her being the McCready if they were to do it again. But I think that's a good point. And I think that again, yes, it would be very realistic to include a woman or more than one.
Hmm.
If they were to remake it again, we're saying this as two people. I have to assume you would rather people don't remake this movie,
Yeah.
and just leave it as is.
I will say though that I didn't mind the reboot, the little like prequel that they made. Did not mind it.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It was not nearly as good,
Mhm,
but it was kind of, I don't know. I thought it was kind of an interesting because, not to ruin it, but it's basically like what happens at the Norwegian camp.
oh, okay.
So it's like literally an immediate prequel to the Carpenter film. So it was kind of cool. They didn't like ruin anything. And uh, from what I remember, I haven't seen it in a few years, but from what I remember, they did follow the like Carpenter blueprint of, all the things that we see that had like in the Carpenter film, all the things that we had seen
Mhm,
that happened at the Norwegian camp, we see play out in the prequel film, in the like in a way that like makes sense, if you know what I mean. Like we see what caused, which is, in some cases, like this is why it's not as good of a film, is because we know what's going on, and like when we see these things happen, we know what that means for the future. So it does just innately have a little less suspense, and it has to end up being more of a like it ends up being more of a jump scare kind of monster movie, um,
mm,
which is again fine by me for what it is. Not trying to be the Carpenter film. It is something different.
that's good. Yeah, I feel like you kind of have to just do your own thing with that, knowing that this movie is really important for a lot of people, and you don't wanna live up to, uh, those high expectations of trying to.
Yeah, well, you don't even want to try. You don't even want to try because you're putting yourself at big risk for failure.
Yeah, I mean, to say the very least.
I do have to say, like, some people might not agree with me about this, but I need them to know that I'm the type of fan that if there's a new addition to a franchise that I like, I'm just happy to have another addition to the universe.
Yeah, okay.
Like I'm not a I think, for instance, Alien Earth could have been done better, but I'm not mad at it. I watched it, had some fun
Yeah.
with it. Um, Even this is maybe the most controversial one considering how much of a fan of Jurassic Park I am. I'm sorry, but the child in me was so stoked to see Chris Pratt on a fucking dirt bike with a pack of raptors. I was so sick. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, that's good. That's nice. That's you just enjoying, the
Exactly.
movie and knowing that it's its own
Yeah.
entity.
And that's where I'm coming from with this other one, with this other thing. So again, don't come for me. I don't think it's as great a film, but I did have fun watching it. So frig off.
Hey, that's all you can ask for when you're watching a movie. It's like, did I have a good time? Then
Hmm.
that's all you need. Um, talking about Carpenter and this film, this one was heavily storyboarded, and, it's not something he did that often. And he liked to do it sometimes with certain films, but him and the producers were like, "We have to storyboard this movie, because I need to visualize how every scene is gonna play out." So that also
Hmm.
ties into him rehearsing, and I think in this case of them storyboarding this and paying attention to every detail, it works really well because, again, every time I watch this movie, I'm always, like, amazed by how tight it is and how quickly it goes. For something
Hmm.
that I mean, the big complaint about it when it first came out was that people felt it was slow and kinda boring. Like,
That's interesting,
it is interesting to see how, audiences react to things.
especially from that time when like shit was hella slow, dude.
I know.
That's
And
crazy.
it's wild because I think, audiences react to things differently over time, and sometimes films, age a lot better than they
Hmm.
and time is to its, advantage, but I think here, there's really not, like, a single wasted scene in this movie.
Yeah, not even a wasted shot.
I know.
There's no filler shots.
No, exactly, and that's where the storyboarding comes in, where they were like,
Yeah,
"We are," you know and it's not like they used everything that's in the movie that was all they shot. There's obviously shots that were
of
cut,
course.
but it's the attention to detail and everyone on set really working overtime to make sure those details and then we'll talk about a few, key members of the crew that I wanna shout out alongside Carpenter because, as with every movie, it's not just one person job, it's,
Hmm.
a team. But, like, they were paying attention to, like, enough to the details of something like some of the sets, they had to make sure the temperature was low enough that they could see the actor's breath when they were
Yeah,
speaking because,
yeah,
this is done in the '80s. They're not using CGI to make breath look like it's coming out of people's and also that means the actors were in those cold climates, and the
yeah,
crew were in the cold climates the whole time, and it just adds to the layer of just the storytelling because you can feel the cold when you're watching this movie. At least to me,
yeah,
I'm always just like, "It looks like miserable,"
yeah.
especially from living in Canada. We know what it's like to
Yeah.
cold and
I
cold.
was just gonna say, I could like when you're watching the film as a Canadian, you see the look of pain.
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember the scene when McCready just comes back in after
Mhm.
Knowles tries to like ditch him in the cold,
Yes.
and he's hunched over, just like flexing his hand, just like looks
Oh,
so hurt.
I know. We've all
And you're
felt
like,
that.
I know what that feels like. Shit.
I know. Oh my god. It's absolutely the worst type of thing, and it's funny because it was shot mostly on location, but they did do some stuff in studio, and the studio being in LA.
Hmm. Hmm.
So they have these cold cli and then they're going out into, like, sunny, nice LA right after being, like,
Jeez.
freezing for hours. I'm sure people were sick quite often.
Yeah, some expensive air conditioning bills.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder how
God,
much of the
well, it's
budget that was.
Universal. Universal can afford it, but I'm sure it was a lot. This movie really kinda harkens back to, like, the original creature features of the '40s and '50s, and Carpenter was a huge fan of those movies. As mentioned, at the top, he's a huge fan of the original
Yeah.
film.
Have you seen the original?
A long time ago, and I should have rewatched it actually for this.
Well, I have it on
Do you?
VHS. I do. I do. And I watched it. It was obviously when I picked it up, I was like, well, clearly I need to watch this.
Yes.
Because I did hear, like, I did watch, like a little documentary segment or something on the internet a few years ago talking about how they basically just like redid the title screen, like the title
Mhm.
shot, because Carpenter was like, you can't make it better.
Yeah.
Like
Fair.
it's as good as it's gonna be. And I knew about his love for the movie, so obviously I had to watch it when I found it. It is
Do you
quite a
like it?
different. It was okay.
Yeah.
I don't want Carpenter to hear this, but it was it's very much of its time. The pacing was Like I'm not good with anything pre 1965 usually
Mm,
because the pacing is just like, holy shit. Can something happen, please? Also, because of its time, not nearly as violent, which is, something that I'm into when it
yeah,
comes to films. But it was an interesting movie. I will say though, when it ends, you're like, wait, what? That's it?
yeah.
That's what happens? The ending was definitely very different. But I do recommend anyone that's a fan of The Thing, obviously you should watch it.
Hmm.
Uh, just because.
Just because, and it is good that he really just made his own adaptation of the story because it is
Yeah.
quite different.
And it is very different. Like you had mentioned it earlier when you were talking about how he was like, okay, fine, but I'm gonna do something completely different. What he really, really did.
Yeah.
Like even down to the monster itself. Like there's nothing at all similar anyway.
Well, speaking of the monster, that's a great transition because one of the next things I wanted to talk about was the special effects and the makeup
Fantastic.
effects, the practical effects. The main designer, Rob Bottin, was hired to design the monsters in this film and all the effects. He obviously worked with a huge team, but he was the main designer. He was a guy, he was a young guy in his 20s, and, like, he
Oh
was
wow.
very, very intense about it to the point where he just refused to take any time off, and it got, like, really sick, and they were like, "You know you can take some time off, right?"
I think I did actually see in that same thing I saw on YouTube or whatever. I think I did see something about this guy, and like I was pretty
Mhm.
surprised about how young he was, and like yeah, he kind of seemed like a bit of a maniac.
He got very invested in it, but it did pay off.
Hmm. Well, yeah, big time.
Again, not that I hate doing this, but I know that I have a bad habit of always comparing things to newer films, but that's people's frame of reference,
Yeah,
and just how, we're working pre-CGI, and thank God we're working pre-CGI because
yeah.
the effects are you're just not getting that anymore because people don't wanna pay artists to do
No,
work like this
exactly.
when they can just get a computer to do it, unfortunately, but the reason why there's many reasons why this movie has had such a huge life outside of, like, its release, but a major reason is because of the way the creature, the alien and the all of those transformation scenes look. They're so memorable, and doesn't matter how many times I watch this movie, I always feel grossed out by it in the most beautiful way because it's fantastic. And I always think even the first one with the dogs, and I'm always just like, "This is absolutely terrifying." Do you, like, have a favorite, special effects scene in the movie? One that stands out
I
to you the most?
I do. I have a couple, and one of
Yeah.
them I think might be like seems like it might be a little surprising slash like tame compared to
Mhm.
like considering everything else that happens. One of the scenes, it's a specific shot, but it's the scene where where they go check out the Norwegian camp. Forget who's there with him. Is it Blair? Anyway, it's I think no, it's Norris. I think. Anyway, they
Mm.
find the body in the chair. Remember, he like follows the line of blood, and then there's a frozen body in the chair with its like throat. His throat's like slashed the fuck open, and then it pans down to this shot of his frozen hand holding a razor blade and just like a
Mm.
frozen stream of blood coming off his wrist. And I just thought that was awesome. And like it really added to like that image is so like monsters are monsters, but that's like a person and like it's just so dark,
I
you know?
know.
That like this guy like I think we're my takeaway is that he slashed his wrists and his throat to just like, you know, stop the thing or whatever. That was
Yes.
his effort. But like the fact that he was doing it in the freezing cold and it's so fucking cold that his
Ugh.
blood froze as it spilled out of his body, like
Yeah.
That's
God,
crazy.
I know.
And so that's like, and it happens pretty early on in the film. So I remember when I saw that shot, I was like, oh fuck, that's wild. And then obviously there's multiple instances of like special effects just being crazy. Like this one's a little bit more, I think, more of a common takeaway is like the Norris spider head.
Yes.
Like I just love like when it's creeping away and like they're like just kind of watching it like leave the room and they're like what, like I forget what he says, he's like no fucking way or something, and then McCready sees it and he looks over and it's just this shot of it like peeking around the door frame at them, and then he just blasts it. Yeah, it's so good. But just that whole sequence is fantastic. Like the special effects in that entire sequence are insane. And I also really like the scene where Blair basically melds his hand into Gary's
Hmm.
face and then
Yes, I was gonna
drags him
say.
away with it.
I know. That's one of my favorites too. Every
So
time I
good.
see it, I'm like, that's like an awful way to die.
Yeah. Brutal.
No, I mean, there's just so many. And I rewatched this. I mean, I rewatched it for the recording, but last year I also rewatched it and I hadn't seen it in years. And I don't know why. I think I just had seen it as a kid where would watch a lot of horror films and a lot of things just didn't faze me as much as they do now. It's
Hmm.
weird that getting older, I'm always just like, oh, that's quite violent. Not that I'm like against it. I'm just like more aware of it. So rewatching it last year and not having seen it since I was a kid, I was like, I cannot believe this movie was this violent. And I
Yeah,
was watching it, like we were talking about this earlier on. It's just kind of insane. I can't imagine like a small child watching this movie and not having nightmares.
for sure. And like another film, not to get off track here, but another film that I feel it's a pretty around it's a pretty like understood by everyone to be fitting, fitting that kind of concept is RoboCop, and just like, it's like it's I think it's literally like an internet meme where it's like we were complaining about the movies that kids were watching, or back in the day, and like this is what we were watching, and it's like, yeah, like that makes that makes sense that parents would complain about that. It's pretty fucked up.
But yeah, I think it's unfortunately a lost art of being able to do this practically and with a team of
Yeah.
people who are actually creating these monsters. And I would have like anytime I see pictures from on set and just like the setup, it's like this is real and true filmmaking. Again, not that newer movies are not, but I think it's just unfortunate that those artists are not given any work anymore.
I think it's absolutely awful that people aren't being able to make an income and make a living from doing this stuff. Clearly, that's terrible. It also really sucks for us as the viewer,
Yes.
because like you watch these movies now where everything's CGI, and like I'm not even talking about like schlocky straight to video horror from like the late 90s, early 2000s where the CGI is abysmal. Um,
Mhm.
I'm literally talking about current modern movies. It's just like I would way rather see a puppet than
Yes.
CGI. I'd rather see a puppet and know it's a puppet and not, like you can tell it's not real, but it still feels more real than the CGI. And I think a major part of that is that one, it's real. It's actually on screen. It was being recorded, but the character, like the rest of the cast, are interacting with an actual thing,
Exactly. I'm glad you
and
said that.
you can feel it. You can feel when you the opposite. You can feel when it's CGI. You can tell like the actor doesn't have the same, like they're literally not interacting with anything. So like
Mhm.
their reactions to what this monster is doing, it doesn't feel like there's any kind of urgency to it, or like the danger doesn't feel real.
There's only so much you can do as an actor if something's not there. Like,
Exactly.
again, they're trying their best, but when you can feel it, like you said, when the actors actually have the creature in front of them, and it just is it's not the same feeling that you would
Yeah,
get in a film made today.
like another example. I'm sure you've probably heard the story of Alien and the chestburster and how the
Mhm.
cast didn't know that that was going to happen. Blah blah blah. I honestly feel like the scene where they're doing the autopsy on the creature that they brought back from the Norwegian camp. I forget who's doing it. It's either Dr. Copper or Blair, but they're cutting this thing open and like pulling the organs out and like it all seems to be there. Like clearly this thing's not human and it looks very much like that. But it's got
Yeah.
these human organs, blah blah blah. And the entire time he's cutting this thing open, he's like, oh God. Oh.
Uh,
And I honestly wonder if they like told him like you're just gonna cut open this thing and pull stuff out and didn't tell him what was gonna be in it.
yeah.
And then he's like literally reacting for real. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that that's how they shot that because it feels like it. It
I
feels
know.
like he had no idea what he was going to see and he's holding these fucking organs and shit. He's like, yeah.
I know. Oh god. No, I agree with everything you said. I think especially what you said about the fact that it's really a disservice to the audience as well, let
Hmm.
alone just the artist, and I think that modern audiences are looking for something stuff like that, and it just needs someone to make the step and be like, "Hey, let's actually put in work." Yeah, it's gonna take longer, but it's gonna make things, I don't know, more memorable.
It's just gonna make them better. Like you're gonna watch the movie and you're gonna like I again, it feels more real. It feels like it's actually happening
Mhm.
because someone went to the trouble of replicating it actually happening.
Yes.
And I feel like you said, there someone needs to do it. There are films though that like modern films that have made the effort to commit to practical effects. And not that I can name a specific one off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure the audience will be able to think of a few. Um, and you can tell and you
Yes.
appreciate it. And honestly, the practical effects are even better than they used to be, obviously.
Yeah.
And so it's even better more like again. It's like
No.
so I agree that it's not done enough, but I think it's kind of it speaks to a larger problem in filmmaking, which is, you know, there are so many other issues, but they all like in major filmmaking, but they all directly relate back to studios trying to like they're trying to profit max, you know?
Yeah. I
It's like
know.
they're all profit maxing. They're not making art.
I know. I mean, very well said. I don't even know what to say to that because it's just the dark reality of things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have a turnaround if I'm trying to be even remotely, optimistic.
I think we have started to see it. Um, I think, like I said, there are some even some more major releases that I remember. Again, can't think of one in particular, but like for example, like Weapons. There's some scenes in that where it was clearly makeup, where they could have just done some like CGI shit, but
Mhm.
they did like some cool makeup effects, and you know,
That's good.
so like there are films that are doing it, and I think the only difference is we're talking about like films that are being made. Uh, it feels almost like films that are being made for the theater
Mhm.
are, especially if they're with like a smaller studio, they're going to be more likely to do that.
Yes.
And then you have like these mass produced. You know, they would have been straight to video back in the day, but now they're streamed and they're like number one in the fucking country for whatever reason. Um, over the course of a week or something. But like those streaming movies, like the Netflix movies, the Amazon movies,
Mhm.
I don't think they're ever going to do it
No.
because again, they're profit maxing. They're just pumping out shit. It's like
Yes.
the last like 10 years maybe of maybe not 10, but the last 5 years of Bruce Willis's career, they're just fucking squeezing him dry.
I know.
You
Ugh.
know, they're just squeezing every last bit of screen time that they can out of this guy before he's done. And that's basically what they're doing with making movies, in my opinion. They
Yep.
just pump shit out, and then people watch it for a few weeks on streaming services, and then
Mhm. They forget
that's it.
about it. I know. They're just not remembered in any
Yeah,
sense at all. Unlike this film that's just grown
exactly.
like a bigger audience over the decades that it's been released. So,
And like the fact that we're still talking about it, exactly. The fact that we're still talking about it. No one's going to be talking about the Jumanji reboot in like 10 years.
what do
Tell
you
you
mean?
that.
That's my favorite movie, actually. Um, before we wrap up this segment, I do want to give a huge shout out to Dean Cundey, cinematographer on this. He shot other Carpenter films, such as The Fog, Halloween. I know that you are a big Jurassic Park fan,
Yes.
and he shot Jurassic Park.
No
So,
shit. I didn't even know that.
yeah.
That's awesome. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the, yep, yep, okay. You know, the like the way that the action sequences are like, here's a thing, here's another thing, like, and none of it feels like a wasted movement.
I know. He's fantastic.
And
He's so
yeah,
good. He's so
that's
good, and this movie looks fantastic. And as we mentioned, like they're shooting in very tight and enclosed spaces. And the way he just was like, I need to be in there with him, and
mhm,
he's like, do not remove any walls to make more space. I'm going to shoot within the confines and make it feel claustrophobic for the actors and
yeah,
the audience. It just looks great, this movie. And to shoot in mostly in the dark, at
yeah,
nighttime and again, not to keep shitting on newer movies, but we get a lot of nighttime stuff in modern stuff and you just cannot see what's happening. Here you
yeah.
can very clearly see even though it's nighttime.
Or it's shot day as night,
Yeah,
and
I
you can
know.
tell that
God.
they just filtered it.
Yes. No, Dean Cundey is the real deal. He's a fantastic cinematographer. I definitely want to do a series on him at some point because he just put out, like, if you look at his career from the 80s and 90s, just stellar. Like he shot all the Back to the Future movies also.
Mhm,
Um, fantastic cinematographer. So I wanted to give him a shout out. One of the last things I want to talk about before I get into the second segment is the ending, the open ending between
mhm,
Childs and McCready, and the fact that the movie leaves it up to the audience to form their own opinion, which is like
mhm.
the kind of always the best type of ending for a movie. The studios wanted him to shoot something else. They were like, "This is too bleak. We need some
Fucking losers.
resolve." Yeah, and he was like, "I'm not doing that. I don't need to say that, everything was perfect for them afterwards because it
Yeah,
likely isn't. Who knows if they're gonna make it out of there? It doesn't even it's not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't really matter. Like
no.
it's not gonna add anything. Um, but I know there's always like the people always talk about who they
Who's
think
the thing?
who's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion? Have you even thought about it? Did it matter to you?
It it didn't until I started seeing people talking about it. And then I did form an opinion.
Yeah.
But I have a two-part opinion.
Okay.
Um, so the first part of it is I heard a theory that, you know, the synth dun dun like
Mhm.
that comes up throughout the film. I heard a theory that it's Childs because that synth plays when he's like after he takes the bottle from Creedy.
Okay.
And their evidence was that, and like I don't remember who it was, and I'm not trying to get at them. um, about it, but they had mentioned that like you hear the same synth beats when we see the dog
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
after he first get it. But like the way they kind of talked about it is that you hear that those two beats anytime the thing is on screen, which is not true.
Okay.
So, so that I'm officially debunking that theory. Um, that being said, if either of them are the thing, I think it's Child's,
Yeah.
and it can only be Child's because we've been with McCready the whole time.
Yeah.
And I personally don't think either of them are the thing. But if, like, again, if one of them is, it's Child's, and it would only be because in the scene where they're testing the blood, and remember they put the like hot
Mm-hmm.
needle, the hot wire thing in Palmer's blood dish, and it like kind of explodes with like the thing reacting, and then the dish drops, and then everyone's preoccupied with Palmer starting to shake and like turn into this giant monster thing, but the blood just like runs away. Where does the blood go? So so I think that the blood, if Childs is the thing, it's because that blood got to him somehow when he was by himself in some way. I don't know how, but I think that's
No, I mean that's a great theory. Like he wasn't infected until after
yeah,
that scene. Yeah.
yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Or, it could have been just like because clearly by the end of it. Actually, sorry. Let me step backwards.
Mm-hmm.
We do find out that Blair is the thing or
Yeah.
a thing. So maybe it was the blood that found its way to him somehow. Because like, the underground tunnel that he built with the fucking spaceship that he's constructing? He must like how much time like that's not a lot of time to do all that work if he's like out by himself, not being the thing. But we clearly saw him smashing all the radios and like trying to kill everyone because he's trying to prevent the spread of the thing. So like, where did it get him?
Yeah. At what
So
point?
at what point? I feel like maybe the blood creeped out and did that. I don't know.
No, I mean it went somewhere.
It went somewhere. They didn't burn it. They didn't burn it.
There you go. Hmm. No, I love that theory. I also personally think that neither of them are, but if it is, it's Child's just because like you said, we're spending all of our time with McCready. We've seen
Yeah,
him. Now, yes, something could have happened, but Childs was off screen for a while before he
for a
shows up
while. And he
randomly.
like disappeared, he took off from like he left the station,
Yeah.
ran off into the night. Like if it is either, I think we're on the same page. If it's either of
Yeah.
them, it's him. I don't think it's either of them.
I
I
don't think
think
so either.
I think they just freeze to death and that's it.
Pretty much.
But the interesting part about that, I not to extend this much longer, but
No.
if that's true, like if they aren't the thing and they both just die, and the thing, like it kind of implies that they did eliminate the thing through blowing everything up and all the fires and stuff like that. I mean, I suppose there's a chance that the same thing could happen with the body that they brought back from the Norwegian camp, where like they tried to burn it and they didn't burn it enough. So maybe the camp being on fire doesn't burn it enough and it freezes. And when the rescue team comes, they find two dead guys and this
Yeah.
frozen like glob of whatever, and then it continues. But I think there's a good chance that it is a happy ending and they actually did end it. They might have beaten it, you know?
I hope. I hope. Maybe he did secretly give the studio what they wanted.
Yeah,
Nice
in his own
little
way.
happy ending. Exactly. It's up to interpretation, which is the best way to end a movie, I think.
Yes.
Well, let's go briefly to the second segment and just talk about what he did right before and after The Thing. So, The Thing is 1982. In 1981, he does Escape from New York. This is another one starring Kurt Russell. Big
He's clearly a fan of Kurt.
I mean, I don't blame him. He's fantastic in his
Yeah,
movies. But this is like a it's set in the future, a future that we've now currently already passed.
yeah.
Um,
I didn't realize that until I rewatched it
I
last night. I
know.
was like, oh,
And
that's
you're
funny.
like, "That's so funny." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess we are in a dystopian world, so he wasn't wrong." Uh, but yeah, it's a dystopian action film, and, definitely a big one that people, watch quite a bit. It's definitely up there in his, echelon of films, but he wrote this one, and he wrote it in the '70s originally after the Watergate scandal with
Mm,
Nixon, and he was just like, just because of who he is, if anyone has ever watched any interviews at Carpenter, he's great to watch because he's very no filter, very
hmm
no bullshit, and he just says how he feels, which is fantastic. And he's always saying that he's like very critical of American politics. He's like, I love my country type of thing,
hmm
but I absolutely hate what's going on politically, and that he's hated what's gone on politically in the past. So he was just like the nation's not in a good spot, and not dissimilar to where they are currently, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this is a response to that, and it's a pretty brutal response, but I think it works.
I mean, oh, like there's also the element of, you look at how the city looks in that film, and it's basically the
Mhm.
Bronx.
Yeah.
Like the entire city is basically the Bronx in the like 70s and 80s.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that probably played a role in that. There was at that time there was this like urban decline across the states, and to a degree in Canada as well. But obviously, New York City was a shining example of that. So I think it's interesting that you say he's. I mean, you say it's interesting that he is a big critic of the state, and then he just kind of takes like you know, especially focusing so much on the World Trade Center, which at the time was like downtown Manhattan was still big money.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, it fell. It's all done. It's all the
Yep.
Bronx now. Shut up.
Hey, listen, fair. I love that. Exactly, and it did well, Escape from New York. So it's kind of weird again to hear that The Thing, which he does right after, did not, do well.
Which, in my opinion, is a better film.
Yes, it is. It's yeah, I like Escape from New York, but it's not there's no real competition between the 2. The Thing
No,
is a lot more solid, but Escape from New York is a lot of fun anyway.
sure.
Um, and what he does right after this, which is actually my I know this is, not a popular, sentiment, but this is actually my favorite Carpenter, Christine, because this is the one I
hmm
grew up with. I love this movie. Is it his best work? Probably not. The Thing would would be, but I just have a soft spot for this movie because I really love it. But it's an adaptation for anyone who hasn't seen it or doesn't know about it. It's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel by the same title. Again, he was approached by producers to make this. He was a fan already of the novel. And I watched an interview with him where he talks about this movie and saying that even though it was successful, it did well, he regrets how he made this film in the sense that he was so invested in the lead character because he saw a lot of himself in that character. And he spent too much time focusing on his story instead of
mm
Christine. And he's
mm
like, "So I forgot to make the car actually scary." He's like, "It's labeled as a horror film," but he's like, "It's not really a horror film. There's horrifying elements, obviously, but he's like, I just didn't make Christine scary at all." But it has a great practical effects in this movie too, especially the car transformation scene in that. Not to give away too much for people, but I think it's a fantastic and you get to see, this is 2, because Harry Dean is also in Escape from New York, but Harry Dean is in Christine, and he's fantastic in this movie. So, big soft spot for Christine.
Yeah. I mean, I do enjoy it. I'm a big Stephen King fan.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons, like I said earlier, I have certain films that are in my collection. I'm not a huge fan of Christine, but it's got to stay in the collection because
Yes.
I'm a Carpenter fan and a King fan. So um,
There you go.
the overlap is undeniable. It has to stay.
Yeah. Also a great cover.
Yeah,
So,
some of them, because they do have. There are a couple different
oh
versions,
yeah.
but and some are not quite as cool. But it's a good movie, regardless. I
Yeah.
would.
I mean, there's
I
worse movies out there.
yeah, absolutely. And it does have a lot of like throughout the three movies. There's a lot of night shooting.
Yes. Yeah.
Of the three, like all three of these films, most of what's happening is at night. Christine less so, but like obviously most of the action
Action. Yeah. Is that night?
is night stuff. And I haven't watched it fully in a while, so I can't speak to it too much. But having just watched Escape and The Thing, there's a lot of similar, and from what I do remember of Christine, it's also true, but I'm not going to say for sure, so don't quote me. But there's a lot of like high contrast, light and
Yeah.
darkness situations, and just to go back to The Thing again, like it's so the way that it's done in The Thing is so much better than either other film, just because it's like the colors are such a contrasting element as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bit of that in Escape as well, but I really liked the way that The Thing utilized not just light contrast but color contrast.
Yes.
So like the shots with, you know, it's dark and cold and blue, but now there's this bright red flare in someone's face, and like, yeah, great stuff.
No, it is. It's fantastic. And again, that's a shout out to Dean Cundey, who's just phenomenal at his work.
Hmm.
Very, very good at his work. So yeah, that's for the audiences, just to give you a frame of reference of where Carpenter was in his career at this point. And this is like, this era of the 80s of Carpenter is really when he's making an even bigger name for himself and he's being
Hmm.
sought out after. So that's why he's getting offered projects instead of trying to, beg for money for other, and he still ends up having to beg for money, but you know. But yeah, that's where he was at. So the last segment here, trademarks, what I wanted to talk about because I purposefully didn't. I know you mentioned the music, but I purposely didn't bring it up because I was saving it for this. And you can't really talk about a Carpenter film without talking about the music. Oddly
Hmm.
enough, he did not score this film. It's scored by the great Ennio Morricone.
Yeah, that actually surprised me to find out.
When I rewatched it last year for the first time, I'd forgotten that he scored this. When I
Yeah,
saw his name, I was like, "Oh, wow! It's wild that he didn't score this
yeah,
himself."
exactly. Because it really did feel
Um,
like Carpenter's vibe.
yes, and he was inspired. They were both inspired by each other. And Carpenter, when he approached Marconi, was like, I want the score to sound more European for this film. That's why he didn't want to score it himself.
Mm.
And Marcone was like, why wouldn't you score this yourself when you're fully capable? But he's like, okay, I mean, I'm very happy to do it. But he obviously was like, I'm not going to make something so different from what people are expecting from a Carpenter film. But it does
Yeah.
have its own vibe in this. And it's used sparingly in this movie because there's a lot of silence, and I wanna talk about the music and also in contrast to the silence of this, because I think the best type of score is only used when it needs to be there as opposed to just background fodder, and I
Hmm.
think he understood that when he was scoring this, and then the silence in this movie, because that scene where they're testing the blood is dead silent, and so you're
Hmm.
just sitting there, like,
You're
just
sitting in it
dreading
with
what's gonna
them.
happen. I know, it's terrifying, and even though I always know who is the thing at the time, it still scares me every time. I
Hmm.
was just, like,
Hmm.
sweating. Knowing that music is a huge part of a lot of his films, I'm curious to hear what you think about this score in this film, and it being not done by Carpenter himself.
hadn't really clocked it before that he didn't actually do the music. And I just every other time that I've watched it, I guess I just wasn't paying attention to the credits, and I just assumed that he did
Mm-hmm.
because it is very synthy and like I mean it is a little bit different in that, like you said, there's a lot of silence. It's a little bit more minimal than other Carpenter synth vibes. So it makes sense that maybe someone else, like it makes sense that you say he was trying to kind of keep it Carpenter esque
Yes.
while still doing his own thing because that's how it feels. Um, and I think, like you said, I think it was perfect. I think like a lot of Carpenter movies, including the three that we've mentioned uh, today, the music starts like right away. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no like silence. Like as soon as the opening credits start, there's music. And I think with the thing, it was like maybe a little bit more subtle getting into it, but once like the helicopter sequence is going on, and the way it's used through it, like it is very heavy and like ominous, and I think it was really well done. And going back to that previous discussion of the theories of who's the thing, part of why I love that that theory is wrong is because they didn't use it in that way. They didn't use it to signify anything but dread,
Yes.
in my opinion. I think every time we hear that music, even when we're looking at that dog, like we know something's wrong with that dog,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know what it is yet. And there's just this fucking boom, boom, you know? It's like, yeah, I think that was a really great way of utilizing the score.
I agree. And I like that it is, as you said, it is a more minimalist version of what Carpenter probably would have done
Hmm.
because I love Carpenter's scores, but he's making the music known. It's like
Yeah,
you're gonna pay attention to the Halloween score. Even the score in They Live, you're paying attention to, the smooth jazz sounds
yeah, yeah.
of that score.
Well, and like even with Christine, it's not Carpenter's music, but the way it's used,
Yes.
it's very there.
Which is always fun too. But this
Yeah,
here in this movie, I think when it's a movie just filled with dread from start to end, you need
exactly.
something that's going to reflect that. So,
Not only filled with dread, it's filled with emptiness. We're talking about this desolate, cold, lifeless place, except for these guys.
I mean, he's a great composer, Morricone, and there's a reason why Carpenter approached him to do it. And I think anytime I see his name in the credits, I'm always just like, I know I'm in for
Hmm. Yeah, he's
good
worked with
score.
Sergio Leone and
Mhm.
Dario Argento, so it's like the guy knows how to
He knows his shit.
he knows his shit.
To say the least. He's pretty good at his job, some might
Pretty
say.
good.
Um, is there anything that we haven't talked about? With every film, you can always talk about, things forever, but if there's anything that you're like, "You know what? I do wanna mention this and I forgot to," um, feel free before I ask you the last question of the show.
Uh, I I can't think of anything
No,
right now.
that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you're like, "You know what? That's how I feel about the thing today, and I got all I wanna say out of it." I feel that way too. Cool. Well, I still have one more question for you before I let you
Hmm.
go. And I don't know if something might have come up as we were speaking. If not, again, totally fine. I have a couple that I thought of this morning, but
Okay,
um, if you're putting on a double bill, because I know you put on double bills
I do.
at Northern Contemporary.
Yeah, at Northern Contemporary, I've done a couple at iSource Cinema. Shout out to iSource Cinema.
Nice. Yes, shout out.
Um, and I really do enjoy coming up with good double bills.
Yeah.
Pretty disappointed that I haven't figured out one for this.
I
Um,
mean, sometimes that happens when you're like, you know what, this movie kind of just stands alone on its own.
yeah,
And maybe you just want to watch the thing that night. But that's fair if you
I
don't
mean,
have.
I will say I've done a double feature previously that was Scream and Scream 2.
Hmm.
And I honestly feel like both films are fun on their own, but I feel like number 2 hits even better when you watch it right after number 1
Yes.
because
Yes.
there's a lot of like carryover jokes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That being said, like maybe the reboot I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
followed by this one, it would be like a nice, could be a nice like sequel kind of
Yeah.
vibe. But if I was maybe more than that one would be the original The Thing,
Okay. Yeah.
and then this one just to see the difference side by side kind of thing. Um, and to get more eyes on the original.
I mean, it's also like you're watching two completely different movies. So it's not like you're watching two movies that are
Yeah.
exactly the same back to back. So
And it
that's
it
a solid.
honestly, I just thought of right now that it honestly could also function the way the original ends. It could function as a prequel.
Mm. Yeah.
Um,
That's a good way to think
Not to
about
give
it.
too much away, but like they don't kill the thing. Now that I'm thinking about it more, would probably be a really funny one because of how I want to give it away so bad, but I won't. But the way that the original ends is kind of like I said earlier. You're like, wait, what? That's it?
Yeah.
To then go right into this madness would be like, ah, yes, it was not it. I
See,
think that
that's
might be really
there
funny.
you go. See, you added a new layer of value to the original. Let's see, that's the power of the double bill also.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there you go. I like that a lot. I thought of a couple because I, for
Yeah.
some reason, was just thinking whenever I think of like older creature feature movies, I think of also Vincent Price. And
Huh.
so I was thinking about The Tingler, William Castle movie from 1959. And there's, a tingler, which is a little creature. Nice use of puppetry there, because as you were talking about puppets, I was like, oh yeah, the tingler, I think would be a good one. So that one's good. It's a nice early horror film. And you get to watch Vincent Price, which is always a
Yeah.
plus. Then I thought about, actually, as we were speaking, I thought about Cronenberg and his use of practical effects and makeup, and I thought of specifically Naked Lunch, 1991, and all the creatures in that, and how, again, we all know it's puppets,
Hmm.
but they look so good, and it's later use of, like, at this point, we're CGI is, I don't know how early it's earlier in the games of CGI, but there's none being used in this movie, and it just shows that, the reason why people, not the only reason why people revisit that movie, but the huge thing that they talk about is the practical effects in that movie and how
Hmm.
well they were done and how much they add to that movie. So I would I'd recommend either of those movies just in their own right, but if you want to double bill The Thing, I think you can't go wrong with watching those ones too. I still think I'd watch the Thing second, because I think
Yeah.
my favorite of the 3, but you can't go wrong with, like, a Carpenter Cronenberg mashup,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I thought of another one actually. Um, and it's maybe not quite as interesting, but it has potentially an interesting faux sequel kind of vibe to it.
Okay.
Uh, Watching The Thing followed by They Live. See what I did there?
Yeah.
So, but like maybe that's too much of an answer to what happened than we want.
It would be good though. I recently rewatched that too because I did an episode on They Live. And hey, we got aliens in different forms in that movie.
Yeah.
So it could be a honorary sequel to the thing.
I just thought of it and it might be kind of fun. I still think the original followed
Yeah.
by the Carpenter the thing would be my choice for now. If I think of something else, I'll update you. Just
No, please do.
for the audience, just so they can get an idea of where I usually go with this kind of stuff. I I like to do another plug here. Every holiday season, I do a Christmas double feature of Elf with Will
Hmm.
Ferrell, followed by Elves with Dan Haggerty, which sounds like a sequel, the classic make it a
Hmm.
plural word,
Yeah.
now it's a sequel. Um, but it's absolutely not the same.
I
I don't know
haven't
if
seen
you're
Elves.
familiar with it's okay. It's a Nazi plot to take over the world with superhumans born from these evil mystical elves.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some pictures here. That's
Yeah,
wild.
it's a wild film. Dan Haggerty plays a alcoholic former police detective turned department store Santa Claus, and
Nice.
he battles the Nazis and the evil elves to save the day.
I mean, as one does.
So that being said, I'm talking like I like the juxtaposition of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So when I think of a really like happy-go-lucky family-friendly movie
Hmm.
that could be completely ruined by watching the thing afterwards, I will let you know.
Okay, please. I'll put it in the show notes for people um to just
Yeah,
for their
please
reference. I
make your
will.
suggestions. I'd like to hear what you all think as well.
I know. Please, as always. Um, well, that was the thing. I had a fantastic time chatting about this movie. It's always great to talk to someone who's very passionate about the movie in question, but also film in general. I I'm gonna put because I for people listening, all the stuff that Will mentioned that he works on, any websites will be linked in the show notes so you can check out his work, and it's just easy there for you. You just have to click a link. But Will, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm truly grateful. I had a fantastic time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had fun as well. I love nerding out about movies.
Same. That's my entire essence right there. Seeing Faces in Movies is an official podcast of the Royal Film Club. It's hosted and edited by Felicia. If you like what you heard, let us know at seeingfacesmovies.com or send us an email at seeingfacesmovies@gmail.com. And while you're at it, please subscribe and rate this show wherever you listen to your podcast, and stay tuned for our last episode in the series on In the Mouth of Madness. Watch your movies, and we'll catch you next time.